Everyone on the yacht thought they had her figured out. She looked out of place, quiet, dressed simply, and not flashing designer labels like the others. Whispers started the moment she stepped on board, but things took a sharp turn when one of the guests made a smug suggestion that she shouldn't be here. A few laughs followed. Then someone, bold and loud, told her to leave, claiming the yacht was no place for someone like her. But what they didn't know was, she wasn't just a guest. She owned the yacht. The tension thickened as the crew stood awkwardly, unsure of what to do. The captain, who had been chatting casually with the wealthy guests just minutes before, hesitated. Instead of stepping in, he turned to her and, to everyone's shock, asked her to step off politely, trying to smooth things over with the elite passengers. Her eyes didn't even blink. No anger, no raised voice. Just one sentence. Asterisk, you're fired. Asterisk, that moment changed everything. The laughter stopped, eyes widened, and suddenly the woman who had been mocked for her outfit and quiet demeanor now stood at the center of the yacht, not as an outsider, but as the one in control. But this wasn't just about power. There was something deeper in her silence. Something no one saw coming. Who was she really? Why was she even on that yacht? And how did a captain who had worked luxury charters for years not recognize the woman signing his checks? The answer would shake more than just the boat. Because behind her calm stare, there was a past. One that was about to resurface, and not everyone on board was ready for it. The silence on the deck was heavy. Some of the guests exchanged nervous glances, suddenly unsure of how they had ended up on the wrong side of the moment. The woman, still calm and collected, walked toward the front of the yacht. She wasn't dramatic. She didn't raise her voice or make a scene. But the authority in her steps made it clear she wasn't someone to be underestimated. Her name was Alina. Most people didn't know her story because she had worked hard to keep it that way. Years ago, she had built a tech company from her small apartment, turning a single idea into a global brand. But after selling the company, she disappeared from headlines and social media. She didn't crave the spotlight. She preferred to move quietly, watching who noticed her only when they thought she had power, and who dismissed her when they thought she didn't. This yacht wasn't rented. It was hers. Bought in silence, registered under a holding company that no one on board had ever heard of. Even the captain, who prided himself on knowing every high-profile client, had no clue who she truly was. He had judged her the same way everyone else did, by the clothes, the quiet, and the lack of flash. But now, whispers were starting again, this time with tension. Who fires a captain mid-charter? Why hadn't anyone recognized her? One woman nervously scrawled through her phone, trying to search Elena's name. A man who had laughed the loudest was now standing awkwardly near the bar, watching her every move. And Alina. She just stared at the sea ahead, calm as ever. She hadn't even started to explain herself yet, but when she did, they'd all realize. This wasn't just a yacht party gone wrong. It was a reckoning. The yacht drifted smoothly over the waves, but the mood on board was anything but steady. After the captain was dismissed, a younger crew member stepped in to take the wheel. I didn't ask questions. He just nodded at Alina with quiet respect, like he already knew more than the others did. That only made the guests more uneasy. Among them was Carter, the man who first told Alina to leave. He was the kind of person who made friends fast. Loud, confident, always acting like the center of the room belonged to him. But now he was pacing near the bar, clearly unsettled. His date, Leela, leaned in to whisper something, her eyes never leaving Alina. "Are you sure she's no one?" she asked. Carter didn't respond. In the background, another guest, Maya, who had been mostly silent through it all, stepped away. To call someone? She worked in finance, and something about the way Alina had handled everything sparked a memory. A name from a client file. A company sold quietly a few years back for a massive amount. Could it be the same woman? Maya's curiosity was now tangled with fear. Meanwhile, below deck, the dismissed captain sat alone in the crew quarters, staring at his phone. He couldn't figure out how he had missed it. He prided himself on reading people, especially high-end clients, but this time he'd made a mistake that could cost more than just his job. Something told him Alina wasn't going to just let this go quietly as the sun began to set. Casting gold across the water, the tension only grew. Everyone could feel that something bigger was happening here. The yacht wasn't just moving forward through the sea. It was drifting toward truths none of them were prepared for. As darkness began to settle over the open sea, the yacht's once lively atmosphere had turned eerily quiet. The guests weren't mingling anymore. They were watching. Alina. Watching each other and watching the situation unfold like something far bigger than they ever expected. Conversations had dropped to whispers. Even the clinking of glasses felt too loud in the heavy silence. Alina stood at the bow, her eyes fixed on the horizon, calm and unreadable. But inside, her thoughts were racing. This wasn't just about being insulted or underestimated. It was about a deeper betrayal, one she hadn't planned to confront here, but now couldn't avoid. Somewhere on this yacht was someone connected to the fallout of her past. Someone who had played a part in what happened before she sold her company and vanished. And now, by accident or fate, they were standing just a few feet away. Maya returned to the deck, phone still in hand. Her expression had shifted. She knew not just who Alina was, but what she had been through. And worse, who else on board had ties to it. Her eyes flicked to Carter, then quickly away. The pieces were falling into place below. The crew was tense. The temporary captain had sealed the bridge. No one but Alina was allowed near it now. Rumors were spreading among them too about who she was, what she owned, and why she had let the insults go so far before acting. Some said she was testing them. Others thought she was planning something bigger then. Without warning, Alina turned and walked back toward the group. Her heels echoed against the deck. The guests froze. She stopped in the center, looked directly at Carter, and for the first time that night, she smiled just barely. But there was nothing soft about it. Something was coming. Carter tried to hold Alina's gaze, but something in her stare unsettled him more than he cared to admit. That slight smile, it wasn't smug. It was controlled. Like someone who already knew how this night would end. He shifted uncomfortably, then forced a laugh. "What? You're going to fire all of us now?" he joked, hoping to cut the tension. But no one laughed. Not even Leela. Alina didn't respond. Instead, she reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a slim, folded document. It was sealed. Thick ivory paper with a wax stamp. She handed it to Maya without a word. Maya hesitated, then opened it hand. Her eyes widened. "You have to be kidding," she whispered, stepping back. The others moved in closer, curiosity overtaking caution. Inside the envelope were acquisition papers, list of investors, transfer dates, emails, and Carter's name clear as day linked to a shell company that had once tried to push Alina out of her own business years ago. She had stayed silent then, sold her shares, and disappeared from the tech world. But now, it was clear this wasn't just about a disrespectful comment on a yacht. This was personal. Carter's smile faded. "You don't understand how business works," he said quickly, his voice tightening. But Elena's calm didn't waver. "Oh, I do," she said quietly. "You just never thought I'd come back knowing everything." That's when the lights flickered. A signal from the bridge. The yacht was no longer drifting. It was anchored. Not near the shore but off a small private island that hadn't been mentioned on the original route. Guests began whispering. Again, this time louder. Alina turned to the group. "Everyone might want to step inside," she said calmly. "The real meeting is about to begin." The guests followed Alina inside, tension thick in the air. No one spoke. The yacht's main lounge had been transformed, screens lit up along the walls, each showing detailed files, emails, and transaction records. Names, dates, account transfers. Everything laid out in black and white. It wasn't just Carter. Few others on board had links to the same corporate deal that had ousted Alina years ago. They hadn't even realized they were walking into their own exposure. Alina stepped to the center, her voice calm but cutting through the silence. "This wasn't revenge," she said. "This was a reminder that not everyone who disappears loses. Some of us just wait." She clicked a remote, and the screens changed, showing a new headline. A major acquisition was going public that morning. Alina had just finalized the deal to buy out the very holding company that once pushed her out. In a few hours, she would legally control every asset tied to it, including the properties, the yachts, and the futures of those in the room. Carter tried to protest, but the evidence on screen left him breathless. Maya, stunned, sat down without a word. The room buzzed with disbelief. Lila quietly stepped away from Carter's side. But just when it seemed the dust had settled, the second twist hit. Elena's eyes scanned the room once more, then landed on a crew member standing in the back, young, quiet, barely noticed all evening. "You've done well," she said to him. He stepped forward and handed her a small, encrypted tablet. Turns out, he wasn't just crew. He was Elena's lead investigator. He had been on the yacht for months, gathering everything. "Check your phones," Elena said. "The world knows now." And just like that, the real storm had begun. One by one, the guests checked their phones. Notifications lit up their screens, news alerts, breaking headlines, social media exploding with Elena's name. The press release was live. The deal was public, and so was the truth. Photos from the yacht were already circulating, leaked by Elena's own team. The world was watching, and there was no hiding anymore. Carter stood frozen, the color drained from his face. Everything he had built was tied to the company Alina now controlled. The arrogance he'd worn like armor just hours ago had vanished. Maya, still in shock, quietly apologized before slipping away to the upper deck. She had crossed a line years ago for the sake of profit, but now she saw the cost. Alina didn't gloat. She didn't need to. Her power wasn't in revenge, was in the quiet way she reclaimed her story. She looked around the room, no longer filled with whispers or judgment, only silence. Some of the guests approached her genuine, humbled. A few offered apologies. Most just stood still, unsure of what to say to the woman they had all misjudged. The yacht's engines started again. The island faded behind them. Alina stepped back onto the deck, breathing in the night air. The sea was calm now, reflecting the stars above. Our investigator stood nearby, tablet tucked under his arm. "What's next?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Peace, for now." Alina didn't just take back control of a company or expose a few names. She reminded everyone on board and watching from afar that power doesn't always wear a suit. Speak loudly or seek the spotlight. Sometimes it moves quietly, waits patiently, and strikes when no one sees it coming. And this time, they didn't laugh. They listened. Because the woman they tried to push overboard now owned the whole ocean.